Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to be putting random pieces of media into a ranked list out of 10. It is a tier list template, but it is not a tier list style ranking. It is just out of 10. And real quick, I'll just explain what each ranking means, since I do hear complaints a lot about an out of 10 system where it's like, oh, but we don't know what each one actually means, so it's useless. So I'll just explain that real quick. I think 5 is like right in the middle of the road. It's like an average. It's not really good, but it's not bad yet. It's just an average. A 4 out of 10, that's kind of like, starting to get bad. And then, below that is just how bad it is. A 6 is like a good movie, like just a good movie. 7 and 7.5, those are like great movies. And then an 8 out of 10, it's like phenomenal, like bordering on a masterpiece level. And then 9 and 10 are pretty much just masterpieces. Also, the pieces of media that I'm going to be ranking today have no rhyme or reason. I just sat down and thought of a bunch of pieces of media, movies, TV shows that I've seen and thought might be good for this list. Hey, I have no theme. It's just literally just things that I've seen. That's the theme. And one last thing. This is the second time I filmed this. This is only my second ever time doing this type of setup where I have a webcam recording my face and then have something recording the screen at the same time in order to edit it together. And I goofed it up twice. One time the camera stopped recording, so my face was not in the video, and there was no audio. And the other time, the screen recorder was recording the camera that was running in the background. So I just had 2 shots of my face and none of the screen that you're looking at right now. Anyways, hopefully it works this time. Yeah, so with that out of the way, let's just get right into it. Gonna kick things off with should I start with a good or a bad movie? Let's do a bad movie. Secret Life of Pets. This movie was made by Illumination. Mark of the Beast right there. I don't think Illumination has made anything good since, I guess the first Despicable Me movie, but everything since then has just been a downward spiral in quality, and all their stuff was just produced for money, which is unfortunate, and we get shit like this. I think this is the worst movie I have on this list, actually. It's probably like a 4 out of 10. It's really not that good. It isn't egregiously bad, so it's not like a 3 or a 2 or anything. It's bad, so it's probably like a 4 out of 10. Batman Begins. I'm pretty sure I have all 3 movies in the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy on this list, and this is my second favorite one. Yeah, the Batman Begins is just a really good movie. It's just a very solid origin story, one of the best I've seen, I think. This movie's just masterfully done. It really is just a very, very good movie. Christian Bale is the best Batman, I think. Robert Pattinson almost beats him out, but Christian Bale, in my opinion, is still the Batman. He's who I think of when I think of Batman. Yeah, overall, it's just a phenomenal trilogy, by the way. The Nolan trilogy, some of the best superhero movies I've ever seen. Actually, no, 2 of my top 3 superhero movies came from this exact trilogy. So, yeah, really good. 7.5 out of 10, easy. The Umbrella Academy. The Umbrella Academy, at the time of filming, has just dropped their 3rd season. My thoughts on it are that it was a good season. Definitely not as good as seasons 1 or 2, though. I think season 1 of this show is by far my favorite, and then season 2 is pretty solid as well, but then season 3 is just kind of it wasn't bad, it was good, but definitely not as good as the other 2 seasons had been. I think Umbrella Academy is deserving of a 7.5. It's a really good show. Its first season was golden. I very highly recommend that you watch it. Next up, we have Now You See Me. This is one of those movies where it's I didn't remember this movie for a long time. I only really remembered it when I was thinking about movies that I had seen. I remember liking this movie, but I remember it being very not memorable. It was cool to watch, and the second time I watched it, I remember being kind of bored by it because I feel like I'd already seen all the misdirection and mystery stuff that they were setting up. That's the thing about me. If a show bases itself very solely on mysteries that you get to fully experience the first time you watch, I have a much less fun time with it the second time because I know what's going to happen. So that's why I'm trying to base all those types of movies off my first viewing of it and my general impression of it, as opposed to how much I liked it the second time or whatever. Yeah, this is a good movie. Kind of forgot my point there for a second. It's a pretty good movie, but not anything super, super special. Probably a 6.5, which is just good. Next up, The Truman Show. The Truman Show is such an interesting concept. I think that's where a lot of my appreciation for it comes from. It's got one of the most interesting premises I've ever seen to a movie before. Oh my god. Whoever thought of this is one of the most original things I've ever seen. Hands down. Whoever thought of this deserves a fucking medal. It's just so creative. And, of course, a story like that needs an actor, really good actor to carry it. Carrie doesn't usually come to mind when I think of exceptional, standout, amazing actors. But in this movie, he is an amazing actor. He is at his best in this movie. It is really incredible how well he acts in this. And all of that culminates to make one of the most interesting and just downright wonderful movies to watch. It's so thought-provoking, and I say thought-provoking specifically because it's like anyone who's seen this movie always kind of gets that feeling in their gut, like, oh, what if that's me when it's over? Even though obviously, it's not, but it still makes you think, and that's kind of what's important. So yeah, easy 8 out of 10 for sure. All right, next up we have 50 First Dates. Now, 50 First Dates, I think, is my favorite Adam Sandler movie. I am not a huge fan of Adam Sandler. I think a lot of his movies are stupid. They pride themselves on their humor being stupid humor. And I don't like that. I prefer my humor to be a little bit smarter, a bit more well written. So I'm definitely not a huge fan of most Adam Sandler content. This movie and Click, and I guess Uncut Gems, I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things about it, are the few Adam Sandler movies that break that mold and do something different with their concepts. And this show is a very different concept. I don't think I've seen the plot of this show even remotely in any other piece of media. So, points for creativity. This is an okay movie. It's definitely not that good, but it's not awful. It's average. So it's 5 out of 10. John Wick. Now, I have not seen a lot of action movies in my lifetime. It isn't a genre that I typically prefer. And I think the two best action movies that I've seen are John Wick, which is my second favorite, and then Die Hard, which is my first favorite. But yeah, John Wick overall, it's a really good movie. This movie has a very good message to it, which is don't fuck with dogs. And as very much a dog person myself, I can totally get behind that. So don't fuck with dogs, don't fuck with John, and Keanu Reeves is awesome. And it's a really good movie. I don't remember a lot of the fine details of the movie, except that he is literally brought back into the criminal underworld and murders a bunch of people because they killed his dog, which, as I just said, is a message I can definitely get behind. So, yeah, 7 out of 10, great movie. Next up, you got One. Now, this is a YouTube show. It's an independently produced TV show on YouTube, and it is fantastic. It's a show where a bunch of sentient inanimate objects get taken to this interdimensional plane, play a game show by a host named Ari, and then the protagonist gets eliminated from the game, which means he goes back home, and he's been gone for 7 months. So he tracks down one of the other contestants that got eliminated, and they're trying to figure out what happened to them and watching them piece together this story bit by bit. And episodes are being actively released as I'm talking about this right now. So watching them piece together the story is extremely interesting. This show has one of the most creative concepts that I have seen in any piece of media in a while. Like, this is really, really good. You can blow through the entire series in probably like a day, and it's on YouTube for free. So I highly recommend giving it a watch. Easy 7.5 out of 10. All right, next up we have Catch Me If You Can. Now, a lot of people haven't heard of this movie, so again, I'll just give it a really quick summary. It's based on a true story of this con artist called Frank Abagnale. Basically, what he does is he runs away from home, and he manages to use his charm and wit to bullshit his way into very prestigious jobs, such as a doctor, a lawyer, and a pilot. In the movie, he's being traced by this FBI agent guy, played by Tom Hanks, which I don't think was the case in real life. But, it is a movie, so of course there will be concessions made. This movie's fantastic. It follows a very interesting story that I wouldn't have found out about if not from the movie. And then after I watched this, I found a panel where the real Frank Abagnale speaks about the true story. And while the movie definitely does make some concessions because it's a movie, it still keeps relatively true to the original story, which is good. I like it when they don't deviate too far from the material they're basing it off of. Because if a story is interesting and worth telling, you shouldn't have to dramatize it for a movie. It should be interesting enough on its own to make a good movie. Anyways, the writing in this movie is great. It does a great job painting a story about who this guy is. And of course, all the heavy lifting for the acting is mostly done by Leonardo DiCaprio, who is a fantastic actor. Yeah, this movie's an easy 9 out of 10. All right, next up we have Stranger Things. At the time of recording, Stranger Things has just dropped their 4th season, and I gotta say, I think it breathes some much-needed life into the show. After season 3, which in my opinion wasn't very good, I was left with a bit of a bad taste in my mouth about Stranger Things ending. But season 4 really brought it back, it pulled itself together, and this show now is much better, in my opinion. It really only has the 1-week season, which does kind of bring my overall rating of the show as a whole down a little bit, but it's still a great show. Just incredible. I love the mysteries of the show in season 1. If you ask me, that's what made the show tick. Season 1. The mysteries are in that season. You're like following this mystery with the characters. Like, we weren't really given a whole lot of information that they didn't have. We were like watching them discover it. And that's what kind of made it really special. In the 2nd and 3rd season, that kind of tapers off a little bit. We aren't given the same element of mystery. But then in season 4, I feel like they kind of managed to bring it back a little bit more. That element of mystery. At least for like the first half. Which is good. It's really good. And then even when they do give you information, like a lot more information than a good solid mystery would require, I still think they do a really good job with it. It's handled well. Better than they did in season 3. So what I'm trying to make is that Stranger Things, in my opinion, is really good again. Hopefully they don't goof it up in the next season. And as of right now, it is a 7.5 out of 10. really good, solid show. Next up, we have Encanto. Now, Encanto, I've seen a lot of like memes of it on the internet and stuff, so that's actually what made me watch the movie. And I gotta say, it's probably one of the better new Disney movies. I feel like in the last like 3 or 4 years, Disney's been really churning out a lot of shit, and this kind of brings it back around a little bit. This is definitely one of the best new Disney movies that I've seen in some time. It's just a really solid movie. It's got a good message at its core, generational trauma, a lot of deep themes like that. Good message. And there's also the fact that the protagonist kind of looks like a member of my family, which I think is funny as shit. Doesn't really contribute to the rating in any way. It's just a neat detail. Anyways, point is, Encanto, really good show. Definitely like a 7 out of 10. All right, next up we have Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, I have watched all the Harry Potter movies. I have read all the books, and I gotta say, I'm pretty sure that the third book and movie are my favorite of the series. I think that they did a really, really good job adapting it from the book, and I love the third act of this movie, the time travel stuff that they do. I think it is extraordinarily well handled. If you ask me, media can either do time travel stuff very poorly or very well, and this is an example of it being done very well. So that, along with the fact that the first 2 acts of the movie are pretty good as well, just makes this probably my favorite Harry Potter movie by far. I'm pretty sure this movie was also directed by a different guy than all the other ones, and it shows. Whoever directed this movie did a great job, and I wish that he directed more. Alright, next up we have... Okay, Gravity Falls. Gravity Falls is perfect. Easy 10 out of 10. It's probably the best cartoon I've ever seen, if we're being honest, and one of the best shows I've ever seen. This show is very unique amongst all the other cartoons that I've seen, mostly because it's got such a out there concept. They do all of the mystery stuff in a very unique way that ends up being very satisfying when it's all tied together. It has produced one of the most iconic villains in all of Disney history. Maybe even all of villain history. And there's also the fact that there's a whole network of theories and background stuff. And of course, don't even get me started on the Cypher Hunt. There's so much to this show beyond the canon 40 episodes. It's insane. It's almost like an iceberg where the 40 episodes are the tip. And then underneath, there's all of this other stuff that you don't even see or know about that just make the show feel so much bigger than what the episodes would have you believe. It really is something special. I can't think of any other show that even compares to that kind of, experience. And, of course, it's got wonderful messages. The show is so well written. It can be enjoyed by literally any age demographic, which is something that not a lot of shows can manage to pull off. It's just exceptional. Everything it tries to do, it does well. It's insane. Alex Hirsch is brilliant. Like, absolutely brilliant. Easy 10 out of 10. One of the easiest rankings I've had to do on this entire list. All right, next up we have The Usual Suspects. The thing with The Usual Suspects is that 90% of the movie is good. It's a good movie. Maybe even a great movie. And then the last 10%, maybe the last 5%, I don't know, but the ending is like a 10 out of 10. The ending is probably one of the best written endings I've ever seen. It really is just something else. And that makes it a little bit hard to grade because it's like, okay, well, if most of the movie is just good, good, like a 7 out of 10, and the ending is a 10 out of 10, where do you put it? Well, I think it kind of matters more what the whole movie is about as opposed to just the ending. So I would probably give it like a 7, but the ending is a 10 out of 10. Make no mistake. The movie itself, since I am judging it as a whole, scores lower, but that ending is phenomenal. All right, next up we have Avengers Infinity War. I think Infinity War is my favorite Marvel movie. Like, seriously. Everything that makes Marvel movies good and fun and watchable and deep is in this movie. This is like the perfect culmination of all the things that Marvel movies are. And it really still does stand out to me as probably one of the best things to come out of the MCU. Easy 8 out of 10. It is in my top 3 superhero movies. It's that one and then The Dark Knight and The Batman Begins. The Dark Knight is an 8.5 out of 10. It's probably the best superhero movie I've ever seen. And that's because of the villain, Heath Ledger's Joker. I don't think you could write a better villain if you tried. Like, there's just something so distinct about the Heath Ledger Joker that's just like, it leaves you mouth agape with how insane and chaotic and just how good of a villain the Joker is in this movie. It's on another level. I don't think that there's any other villains that compete. Seriously. I already sung my praises for Bill Cipher, but I gotta say, the Joker, that's a whole nother story. That's a 10 out of 10 villain right there. So yeah, great movie. Absolutely exceptional. Best superhero movie I've ever seen. Next up, we've got Luca, another newer Disney movie, and overall a pretty good movie. Now, I don't think Luca was nearly as good as Encanto. I definitely think Encanto was better, but Luca was not bad. It was pretty good. Pretty interesting concept. It's a simple concept and a well done concept at that. Yeah, just overall good movie. Really. Probably like a 6.5 out of 10. Just a good solid movie. Nothing great, nothing groundbreaking, nothing super exceptional. Still a good solid film. All right, next up we've got Phineas and Ferb. On this list I have two kind of episodic shows, Phineas and Ferb and Family Guy. And the problem with Family Guy is that the Phineas and Ferb and Family Guy, they're both like episodic sort of sitcom type shows. I don't know if sitcom is the right word, but the point is, one of them has a problem, the other one doesn't. And that's that Phineas and Ferb manages to stay consistently good throughout its entire runtime. It doesn't have a drop in quality. Family Guy does. Family Guy stopped being good after like season 12. Like, let's just be honest. So that really does hurt my overall rating of the show. I'll just say it right now, Family Guy's like a 7 out of 10 for me. It does get significantly lowered by how weak the later seasons were. Phineas and Ferb is higher, in my opinion, because it doesn't have that problem. And also because, if you ask me, it's just a more enjoyable show in general. And it stays consistently good. That's the key thing there. Oh, and then there's also the nostalgia factor. I grew up with Phineas and Ferb. I did not grow up with Family Guy. So I definitely have a more special place in my heart for this show than I do with Family Guy. So that does raise it a bit higher to a 7.5 out of 10. Well, okay, we got Captain America Civil War up next here. Probably in my top 5 favorite superhero movies. Yeah, I love this movie. And I guess I just really do like the conflict of interests and beliefs between Tony and Cap in this movie. It's just very interesting to watch. I also think there's just something cool about watching a bunch of superheroes fight. What can I say? It's neat. I do go back to the airport scene every now and then on YouTube and just watch it through and enjoy myself the whole time I watch. So overall, just a really, really solid movie. Probably a 7.5 out of 10. All right, next up we got Helluva Boss. And if you watch my channel, you know how much I talk about Helluva Boss, and that would probably lead you to think that I'm going to put it in like 10 out of 10. Oh, it's amazing. But, well, you owe a lot to this show. I mean, honestly, I talk about this show so much on YouTube, it's probably like the only reason that I have any subscribers. I definitely do have a special place in my heart for Helluva Boss. I love this show. But it definitely has some weak episodes, most notably 3 and 4, which do drag down my overall rating of the show. I still love it, and I still think that definitely certain episodes of Helluva Boss are incredible. If I could grade it by episode, this would be a different story, but I am grading as a whole, which means the lower tier episodes do kind of drag it down. So probably like a 7.5 out of 10. I've been talking for like literally 2.5 hours straight at this point. My throat's starting to get a little bit hoarse. Anyways, next we have Saving Private Ryan. Why isn't it popping up? There we go. I have not seen very many war movies in my lifetime, but the ones that stick out to me are Saving Private Ryan and Midway. These two movies are absolutely fantastic. Saving Private Ryan, I think a lot of its specialness kind of comes from a sort of a believability standpoint. Like, I could totally see the events of Saving Private Ryan happening in real life. Oh, and then there's also the fact that that opening scene, Storming of Normandy, was incredible. Some of the best cinematography I've ever seen in any movie, the best cinematography I've ever seen in a war movie, and just generally one of the most memorable and incredible scenes that I've ever seen in any movie. It really is something special. Definitely an 8 out of 10 for me. Midway's a different kind of movie. It tells the story of the Battle of Midway, and I don't like this one for the same reasons that I like Saving Private Ryan. I just like this one because it's a good movie. It tells the story it's trying to tell exceptionally effectively. It's got good casting. All the actors do a very good job with the roles they've been given. I love history, so I love the story that it's based around. The characters are all likable and interesting and enjoyable. I can't think of a lot of things that are wrong with this movie. Every time I watch this movie, I like it. I have a good time with it. It doesn't really seem to get old. Also an 8 out of 10. These are two exceptional war movies, and if you like history or you like war movies, I highly recommend both of them. All right, while we're on the subject of historical, we have one of my favorite TV shows and favorite historical TV shows of all time, Turn: Washington Spies. Now, a lot of people don't know about this show. I have talked about this show with a couple people, and at first a lot of them didn't know what it was, so I will explain real quick. This is a show about a spy ring in the Revolutionary War called the Culper Ring. It is also loosely based on real historical events. This one's a lot more dramatized because they did need a show. Like, a lot of the stuff that happens in the show did not happen in real life. Normally, that's kind of like, oh, points off for that. But honestly, I don't give a shit. This show is just too damn enjoyable. I don't really care that it isn't 100% accurate to history for once, because, like, my god, this is a phenomenal show. I don't even know what makes it work so well. I just love the characters. I think that's why I like the show so much. I love the way the characters interact, the way they play off each other. Just everything about it clicks. It works for me so much. It's a 9 out of 10 for sure. You know, there was a time period where I was watching this during my first viewing where I stayed up for 24 hours straight and did nothing but watch this TV show. Literally nothing but watch this TV show. And I didn't feel like I'd wasted any time after, and I wasn't bored throughout any of the viewing experience. And that just goes to show how awesome a show this is, because I have a very low attention span. All right, next up we got Inception. A lot of people don't like Inception. They say it's too confusing. And I can see that. It is a very complex show. To be like laser focused on the show in order to get everything that's happening. And I understand if some people don't care for a movie like that. They prefer more casual viewing where they don't have to like be taking notes to get it. But I do. I like that kind of show. I like complex things that you have to be paying a lot of attention to. I like that kind of stuff. So I like this movie quite a bit, more than most, I would say. And of course, it is acted in by Leonardo DiCaprio, who, as I already mentioned before, is a phenomenal actor and probably one of my favorites. And he does a great job, as usual. So that definitely adds to this for me. This is definitely 7.5 out of 10. All right, next up we have What About Bob? It's another show that a lot of people don't know about, so I will briefly summarize. This is a show where Bill Murray plays a guy with some mental issues, and he kind of develops an unhealthy obsession with his therapist. He goes and stalks him while he's on vacation, and he meddles in his life so much that eventually the therapist, who's like this super buttoned up guy, he breaks. He literally breaks and tries to murder him, as this lovely poster shows us. He actually does try and kill him, and it doesn't work. And it ends with him literally going into a catatonic state because he has gone so insane. So the insane guy drove the sane guy insane. Now, I love this movie so much, and that's because there's a time in our house where our Wi-Fi went out for 2 weeks, so we had to watch a lot of DVDs, and this was one of the few DVDs that we had. So I watched this movie probably like 2 dozen times. Not even an exaggeration. Probably like actually 2 dozen times. And I always thought it was fun, which you think that would make me hate it, right? But no, it didn't happen. I now enjoy it more than I did before, which is crazy. It just goes to show how good of a movie it is. It's probably like a 7 out of 10, maybe 7.5, but I'm just going to put it in 7 for now. Great movie. Definitely recommend it. All right, next up we have Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's a very fun movie. It's just a fun movie. That's the best way to put it. It's awesome watching this steaming little child's antics throughout the day. It's a fun time. I have a lot of fun with this movie whenever I watch it. 6 out of 10. Game Night. Game Night is a comedy with Jason Bateman, and it is a fun time. I will admit there's a lot of dumb shit in this movie that makes me not like it nearly as much as I could have, but it's still pretty good. Probably also 6 out of 10. I should probably mention that the acting in that movie varies by a lot. Like, some of the actors are very good at the role they're playing, and some of them are just utter dog shit. All right, I'm down to like 2 more, maybe like 3 more. Breaking Bad. I don't think I need to explain why this TV show is like a 10 out of 10. A lot of people love Breaking Bad, and for good reason. This is like a masterpiece, and it deserves all of the attention and recognition it gets. Seriously, this show is phenomenal. Everything, every theme they explore, every character action, all of the lines of dialogue, essentially, everything about this show is perfect. I can't think of a single damn thing wrong with Breaking Bad. It is incredible. Even the weakest episode of Breaking Bad, which is the Fly one, is still good. So when your lowest episode is like a 6.5 out of 10, that's how you know that you created a masterpiece. Like, seriously. Vince Gilligan, and yes, I love this show so much that I now know the name of the creator off the top of my head, is an absolute artist. A modern day Da Vinci. I can't even get over how good this show is. I basically love every single moment in this show. It's something to be cherished. The Owl House. This show, I think the reason I like it so much is because it takes a lot of themes from Gravity Falls, which, as I've already mentioned, I love Gravity Falls. So naturally, I love this quite a bit too. It isn't a copy of Gravity Falls. There's a lot of stuff here that differentiates it. Yeah, it's definitely got a similar sort of vibe to it, and I like it. It hits all the right beats. It's got good characters. I will say that there are a lot of episodes that don't seem very important, like very fillery type episodes. Perfect example is the one with Ida's mom. Like, there's one piece of relevant information in that episode, and that's right at the end. There's a couple episodes that are like that. They're just kind of eh. And that's a little bit different from Gravity Falls, where it's fillery type episodes. They had points, whether it was to develop characters more or whatever. They didn't feel like fillery. This show has some fillery episodes for sure. But this show's amazing still. It has such a noticeable upward increase in how good it actually is. Like, season one's good, not like 8 out of 10 territory. It's still pretty good. And season 2 just kicks ass, especially towards the end. It's such a noticeable improvement. It is crazy. So yeah, overall, this show is like an 8.5 out of 10. Really, really good cartoon. Managed to partially fill the Gravity Falls shaped hole I had in my heart, because after Gravity Falls ended, it was like, oh, there's no cartoons that are as good as this anymore. But there you go. Next up, we have Back to the Future. Back to the Future is a good movie. This movie is super iconic, and I feel like almost everybody watching this has seen it. But I didn't see it till I was like 14. I waited way too long to see this, and that's sad because Back to the Future is a good movie. Like seriously, my favorite scene in this movie is the end where Marty McFly is belting out Johnny Be Good. So iconic, just sticks with you. It's one of those great movie, easy 7 out of 10. All right, next up we have Cars. I added this to the list of things to put on this tier list at like 2 o'clock in the morning when I was half asleep. So that's why it's so random. Yeah, Cars is it's definitely not a great Pixar movie or Disney movie or just a great movie in general. It's not that good. It's probably like a 5 out of 10. It's there. And I think this is like the last movie I have on here. Okay, this is the last movie. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. It's a 5 out of 10. Now, here's the thing about Marvel movies, especially new Marvel movies. They can sometimes really just not work. I like a lot of Marvel movies, but I also don't like a lot of Marvel movies, especially the Phase 4 stuff. I actually did see this movie in theaters. I think it's one of the only Marvel movies I've seen in theaters. And I remember just leaving the theater feeling like dissatisfied. And that dissatisfaction is actually what I used to fuel all my commentary on this in that pitch meeting video I made. No, I don't hate this movie, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like it wasn't that great. I really just think it was perfectly average, whatever. Take it or leave it. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about that one. And those are all of the things I have to grade here today. So this is it. This is the entire tier list. Let me know down in the comments below if you think I have trash taste or if you think this is about right. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more tier list type content like this, please let me know. I did have a fun time making this, so if you guys want it, I'd be glad to make more. Yeah, if you like the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video around. Okay, bye.